to So Into Bourbon. Is this a podcast? I don't know if I want to call it a podcast because
I call everything a podcast.
Well, it really lends itself to video a little bit more, and we haven't really put it on any podcast outlets. Maybe we will. I don't know.
Here's my thought process. If we can just get some of that Joe Rogan podcast money, so let's just keep calling it a podcast, and maybe we'll get lucky and just get a fraction of that. Like one.
I see where you're going.
See?
I see where you're going.
Podcast.
All right. Well, just to tell you a little bit about us and where So Into Bourbon comes from. Obviously, we are located in southern Indiana, just right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky, the bourbon whiskey capital of the world. And also, we are so into bourbon, aren't we, Charlie?
We are so into bourbon, yes.
And as you may have noticed in previous episodes, sometimes we throw the term bourbon around a little loosely. Sometimes we may be drinking a whiskey and we call it a bourbon. And so just forgive us for that. We know the difference. Do you know the difference?
They're both brown and have alcohol. Yeah, so one thing, if you've watched any of our episodes, which if you have, kudos to you. This isn't your normal tasting bourbon. We're just trying to have a good time, figure out what's good. If you get something out of it besides laughing or commenting about how dumb we are, fine. But we want you, the whole point of bourbon, and it's gotten very stuffy in the bourbon world the last couple of years. It's okay to just be like, I really like bourbon, and just leave it at that. You don't have to go into I like a mash bill and char level. If you like it, you like it. And if you like a distillery, then you like it. And if you like it with an ice cube, then that's fine. If you like it in a solo cup, that's fine too. So
that's not fine. Don't drink it out of a solo cup. Unless you're tailgating, then it's perfectly acceptable.
See what he's doing here?
Or camping.
So that's the point of So Into Bourbon. This is an excuse for us to drink bourbon and make fun of each other and other people. And hopefully you get something out of it. So what are we drinking today?
So enough. As you can see, we have Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye. This is batch 1. This is a rye whiskey, not a bourbon. Hard Truth is located just up the road from us, about 45 minutes, an hour away in Nashville, Indiana. It's a fairly new distillery, but they are doing great things. It's a wonderful place. If you ever happen to visit southern Indiana, head up to Nashville and check it out. They've got 325 acres there. They don't just make whiskey, they make all kinds of stuff there. They have ATV tours that you can go on. I think they're actually going to build some cabins up there as well. And from what I understand, they are in the process of building a new rack house to ramp up production, one that is twice the size of the one they already have. So enough about that. This is this Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye has a mash bill of 94% rye, so it's very high rye content, 6% malted barley. It's aged 2 to 3 years, so it's a very young bourbon.
2 to 3 years, Glenn. 2 to 3 years? Why are we drinking 2 to 3 year old? Why would anyone want 2 to 3 year old aged?
Well, Charlie, you tell me, why would you?
He flipped it on me. So rye in general typically ages a little more quickly and matures a little more quickly in a barrel than its bourbon counterpart. Sweet mash rye, it is said, ages and matures even quickly than a regular sour mash rye.
As opposed to sour mash, and not to get into weeds here, most of your whiskeys and bourbons are sour mash. There are a few out there now who, and I think a lot of the new distilleries starting up are experimenting with the sweet mash. And you can Google the difference. We're not going to get into the weeds, but basically sour mash, you take some of the old, what would you call it, the leftovers from the distilling, the mash process, and you introduce it into the new mash bill, and that helps regulate the pH, it helps with bacterial growth, and it keeps a more consistent flavor profile.
You said we weren't going to get into the weeds. Yeah. Now we are in the weeds.
I'm taking after Charlie. He said he didn't want to talk so much this time. So.
I felt I dominated the first 2 episodes, so we're going to tone it down and make sure it's not the Charlie show.
Probably a good thing.
Probably.
So you know what, Charlie? Let's let's just get into drinking this.
We're gonna open
That's
it.
what the people want.
We're gonna open it. And I mentioned it earlier about bourbon being a little stuffy here lately.
We didn't take the plastic off, did we?
We didn't, but that's okay. It gives me time to talk and make it. Oh, I found it on the first try. Boom. See that? In the last couple of years, it's finally started to be cool and appropriate to give
Better make it pop.
just smaller distilleries. You make it pop. I never can.
Oh,
That was a
that's
good one.
beautiful.
That was a good one. So it was.
Wow.
It was a not a real cool thing. Like if you told people that you drank a Starlight or a Hard Truth or any other startup distillery, and I think what has happened is with the availability or lack thereof of your standard go-to bourbons and the popularity of bourbon, it's really allowed people and maybe even forced people to venture out of their comfort zone and be like, you know what, to heck with that. If I'm gonna wait 2 hours in a line, I'll just try something else. And it's kind of opened up their experience. So kudos to the people that are starting something new and are not afraid to put something out into this market, knowing full well that it may not appeal to everybody. So, don't be afraid to pick up those smaller distilleries that don't have the $100 and $500 million budgets or whatever. Support those people. Even if you hate it, it's a bottle off their shelves, and you're helping grow the industry.
Absolutely. And the one good thing about new startups is they can afford to take risk.
Yeah.
Because they haven't built up that following. They haven't established flavor profiles that people are used to, and so they can
still working out what works, who we are, developing an identity. So
it says a pretty nice color to it, actually.
Yeah, for a 2 or 3 year old.
Yeah.
A blend of 2 and 3 year old rye, a more deep kind of amber color than I would have expected. Not a lot of cling in the glass.
No.
At all, which is again kind of to be expected. So what proof is this, Glenn?
That is another characteristic that they say of sweet mash, that it's a little lighter, not as heavy.
Not as viscous. What is the proof on this?
115.2 to be exact.
Well, I like proofy things, so let's give it a nose.
I can smell a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
Which is
fruit, floral. There is a big puff of ethanol in that alcohol, but it kind of quickly goes away.
It fades, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a nice floral nose on it, too.
I want to taste.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're going to edit that awkward silence out. We always do.
I want to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. I'll give them to you. It's a very light mouthfeel. It swishes around, not very viscous, light mouthfeel. There's kind of a sweet splash on the front, a little rye pepperiness, but it fades really quickly, which is, when you're 2 and 3 years old,
Right.
There's not a lot of complexity there. I'm going to take another drink while you talk about what you tasted.
Well, to echo what you said, there's definitely some pepper there, which you would expect with a rye. To me, it didn't fade quite as much as maybe what you thought. I still, it's lingering in my mouth a little bit. The sweetness, it's definitely got some nice sweetness, some floral, fruity flavors, a little bit of chocolate.
I get the chocolate, a little bit of bitterness. I don't get any floral or fruit on it. I get a little kind of sweet, but yeah, I'm not getting your floral fruit, which is okay.
That's okay, Charlie.
It's okay.
I completely made that up.
No, he tasted it, but it's okay because, and this happens all the time. You bring your buddy a really awesome bourbon you think is awesome. You pour it for them. You're super excited. They take a drink and they're like, that's terrible. And then you feel bad and you're like, oh yeah, I think it's terrible too. No, like stick by your guns. If you like something, be like, yeah, I like this. I like this. This tastes good to me. Like, I don't know why in the bourbon industry, in the bourbon community, if you want to call it that, why it's like, unlike food, if I went to your house and I was like, oh, what are we having for dinner? And you were like, oh, we're having sushi. Oh, I don't like sushi. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. We'll accommodate.
You're an idiot. You don't like sushi.
You're an idiot. Sushi's the best thing in the world. But that's how we are with bourbon. Like, you're a moron. You don't like Blanton's? You're so dumb. Like,
you eat cooked sushi? That's not the way you eat sushi.
I like cooked sushi. That hurt. It hit me right in the core. But that's what we do with bourbon. And that's a weird thing. So don't shame people for the bourbon that they like. Now, in this particular case, Glenn is wrong. And he's wrong about everything. This is not, no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm totally joking.
I was going to say, I haven't even
Whoever's editing
really
this, zoom into his face when I get in there. Like, Glenn gets uncomfortable in 3, 2, 1. I think that this is about what I expected out of this.
Yeah,
So-
it's and I'm not gonna lie, I've seen a few other reviews. This is the first time I've tried it. I was expecting something really phenomenal for what it is, and I don't know that I would categorize it as phenomenal, but it's a very good rye, especially for the age and for such a new distillery that's still kind of fine tuning and finding its way. I think it hits the mark.
An absolutely drinkable bottle of rye. If you like ryes,
Good.
it does have a good nose on it. Third drink is every drink's a little bit better, kind of waking up the palate as well. So the nice thing that I like, and especially on anything over about 110 proof, is I like opening them up, pouring a couple pours out of them, and let it sit. And then come back to it, and then come back to it. And I can't tell you how many bottles that on my initial taste, I was like, I kind of missed the mark. And then you come back to it, and you're like, whoa, that is nothing like I remember. And then you come back to it again, and it just keeps opening up as that alcohol kind of evaporates off, get a little oxygen to it. So I think this will be no exception. I think this is a bottle that will get better as it's open.
And I agree, and like you said, the more I've drank just sitting here talking, the more I like it, and it's lingering. I'm picking up more and more of that kind of bitter.
Licorice.
Not bad bitter, but like the semi-sweet chocolate flavor that's lingering
or even
in my mouth.
a little licorice to it, and it does linger for a while, kind of. Yeah, I get that a lot too. I like that. So, what do they? Let me ask. Hold on a second. What do people mean when they say it tastes like? Oh, it tastes like tobacco. Do you know what they're talking about?
We may find that out here in our next video.
Oh, all right. I don't think it means what you think it means. But I want someone to explain. I've never chewed tobacco. Maybe that's what they're talking about. You think that's what they're talking about?
Have you ever smoked?
Once or twice. So, but I don't know. I've never. Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you say it tastes like, what people really mean is
It reminds me
it
of.
tastes like something smells. Does that make sense?
No.
Smell and taste go hand in hand. So you've probably never tasted gasoline, right? But smelling gasoline, you can probably imagine what it might
Why would you
taste
assume
like,
that I've
correct?
never tasted gasoline? I mean, we're all 30 once and get curious and be like, I wonder if there's a difference between E85 and standard. And, inquiring minds want to know.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
For the record, I've never drank gasoline. This is why we're not getting.
Snort it a little bit. Maybe.
Stop putting my business out there. This is why we're not getting any of that Joe Rogan money. I'm just telling you that right now.
Let's try this one more time.
I've tried it like 3 more times, and I'm kind
The
of
nose is really mellowed out.
Yeah.
Expectedly.
Yeah. But the more I drink it, the more I kind of like it. It's an easy sipper at 115. The one thing, and maybe we should have talked about this at first, it does not drink like 115 proof. at all.
No, it doesn't.
At all. I mean,
you know it's there. It's a
right.
good.
You know it's there. It's got good flavor, which you like. Proof and flavor to me are kind of hand in hand. So when people are like, oh, it's too proofy or it's too strong, for me, that's what I like. I like things that are very flavorful and kind of kick you in the mouth. This has that, but it doesn't have any of that alcohol or the burn. It's very easy sipping for 115 proof. So,
All right, Charlie. So after having said everything we've said and tasted and kind of gone through our whole soliloquy here,
is it
like that word?
I like
Soliloquy?
that. I like that. Is it catchphrase time?
Is it?
I'm so freaking excited. Is it catchphrase time? Tell me it's catchphrase.
Are we going to drink it or sink it?
There's a sink behind. I don't know if it's in shot, but we have a sink behind me. 100% drink it. There is nothing about that it's a good bottle of whiskey. It's a good bottle of rye. It's a nice addition. If nothing else, it's something that is here that you may or may not be able to find on your shelves, and it's here for a limited amount of time, and when it's gone, it's gone.
30 barrels.
30 barrels.
Now this is batch 1. Supposedly there's a batch 2 and a batch 3 out. I haven't been able to confirm that. I think maybe it may be worth a trip up to Nashville.
Yeah.
To visit the distillery just to see if that's the case.
And this is another thing that I get really frustrated with people that don't give small local distilleries a chance. Is you people, bourbon people, will wait in line and beg, borrow, and steal and pay secondary for products that are made and continuously made and are batched, whatever. You guys know what bourbons I'm talking about. But when you have the opportunity to buy something that's truly limited and it's here, and then when it's gone forever, that's something cool. And there's something romantic about, bourbon and whiskey and rye that, hey, this was made and you don't know what the future's gonna hold. Is that distillery gonna be around in 5 years or 10 years? You don't know. Is that bottle of bourbon that you're like, oh, I don't like that distillery? It may be the best thing you've ever had, and it may be the only opportunity you have to taste it. So venture outside of your comfort zone and buy a bottle from a distillery or someplace, do some investigation, find you something cool and try it. And do this, invite a friend over, pop a bottle and see what you think.
This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Let me add one thing before we go. You're probably wondering, Glenn, Charlie, how much does this bottle cost?
I was wondering that.
It retails for right around $70, which, what do you think as far as retail? And
Bro.
What do you think? Would you pay $70 for this?
Bro, at the current October of 2022 is where we're at right now. Everything costs $1 billion. Inflationary environment, demand for bourbon at all-time high. Yeah, I've spent much more on much worse. So
plus, it's a beautiful bottle.
It is a beautiful bottle, and you can't see the cork, but
nice cork.
The cork is actual. I think that's actual either cork, like unfinished cork, or wood or something. It's really cool looking. Beautiful bottle.
Wood or something.
It's something. It's different. Beautiful bottle. Good. We may have to include this in a montage of revisit videos and revisit it in a week or so and see what it tastes like.
Absolutely. And if you do happen to try this and you decide, hey, I kind of like that sweet mash vibe going on, some other distillers who use the sweet mash process is Castle and Keep, Peerless, and Wilderness Trail. I know there are others, but those are the big ones that we can think of at this time.
So when you're wondering and you're looking, you're like, oh, 3-year-old or 2.5-year-old, it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. And in all likelihood, it could be really drinkable. So
revisit it.
Buy that bottle.
Hey, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, tell us how stupid we are, tell us how handsome Charlie is. What else? What else do we have? Are we done? Are we finished?
I don't know. I think so.
All right.
We're going to cut. Ready?
Cuts.
Cut.
All right.
Don't touch the microphone thing. You're gonna do
Touch the microphone.
I don't know. You were all scratchy.